George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were known 1 million people would have died due to handguns from 1968 to 2008. They might not have passed the Second Amendment. Let me just tell you that. 1 million people died in our streets. 1 million.
I thought you just said this wasn't about the Second Amendment, Mike.
But it's not. It's not. I'm just saying that it's not about the Second. I'm just saying they.
But you just said that if they had known about that statistic, they might not have passed the Second Amendment. So you seem, Mike, to be awfully now concerned about the Second Amendment. And as a U.S. history teacher, I confess, you being the U.S. history teacher, not me, I'm a little concerned by that.
Well, I'm just saying I'm for the Second Amendment. I think people should have a right to own weapons. I'm just saying that 1 million people is a lot. It's not a license for mass murder. It's not a license for mass murder. The NRA focusing on these laws that are going to keep guns out of keep the felons from owning these guns. It's ridiculous.
Okay, Mike, how would this law do that? How would any of these laws prevent a violent felon from getting a hold of a gun?
Well, how about the third law that we're going to lobby for is to have background checks for employees of gun dealers. Mm-hmm. That's not on the books in New York State.
Okay.
So why would the NRA be against having background checks for employees of gun dealers?
No, Mike, I asked you a question. And the question was, how are any of these pieces of legislation going to prevent a criminal from getting access to a gun?
Well, obviously, the third one I just mentioned, I mean, you could be a 5-time felon and work in a gun dealer shop and sell to all your boys, other gang members, and there not be any consequences.
Actually, that would be illegal, Mike. It would be illegal.
Yeah.
It's already a federal crime to sell to a prohibited person. It's already a federal crime to knowingly engage in a straw purchase. It's already a federal crime to illegally traffic in firearms. It doesn't, Mike, what I'm saying is it doesn't matter if the person behind the counter is a prohibited person or not. As soon as they engage in any one of those acts of transferring a firearm to somebody who's not allowed to own one, they've committed a crime, and they can go to prison.
But it doesn't matter. The gun is already in the criminal's hand. It's after the fact. Wouldn't you want the gun in the criminal's hand?
Okay, and so you're saying that this law that would require background checks for employees of gun shows, right? Yeah. You think that the bad apples, the ones who are already breaking the law, the ones who are already engaging in straw purchases, the ones who are already engaging in illegal firearms trafficking, the ones who are already doing these things, are going to follow that law?
Well, they're not going to. A felon shouldn't be working in a gun dealer's store. They shouldn't be allowed to sell guns. A felon. You agree? You think a felon should be allowed to sell a gun?
I'm just asking how this works, Mike.
Again, yeah, it's simple. There's a background check on employees of gun dealers. How simple is that? A felon shouldn't be able to...
It's already illegal for a felon to possess or touch one round of ammunition, Mike. If there's a felon working in a gun store right now and they're a prohibited person, as soon as they touch that gun or that piece of ammunition, they've committed a crime. You're making something more illegaler. By the way, with a far less punishment than the existing federal penalty.
Not in New York State. In New York State, you could be a felon and work in a gun store.
It's a federal law. It applies in all 50 states and U.S. territories. It doesn't matter that there's no state law. It is a federal law, which means that U.S. attorneys can prosecute these cases. You don't need the county executive. You don't need the district attorney. You can take it to the U.S. attorney.
So there shouldn't be any background checks on any of these people.
Mike, what I'm saying is there are existing laws that deal with this, and you haven't been able to show me.
What law is that?
The law that I'll say it again. The law that makes it illegal for a convicted felon to possess a firearm or ammunition. Now, by possession, that can mean picking up that box of ammunition and putting it on the counter to sell it to somebody. That's a federal felony if that individual is a convicted felon. That's law number one. Do I need to repeat the federal laws against straw purchasing and illegal firearms trafficking?
There is no law, I'm telling you, that I've heard of I think I don't know where
what I'm telling you, Mike, and I'm trying to be nice about it, is that I think there's a lot on this issue that you haven't heard about.
Well, why would New York State? Why would there be a bill that they're going to? You asked me this. Why would New York State legislature be voting on a bill if it's already a federal law? You tell me that.
Have we never seen politicians play games with legislation? I actually call all of these bills, Mike, I have a name for them. I call them soundbite solutions because they're things that are easily articulated in about 10 seconds or less. They promise wonderful benefits, but they don't really do anything. And that's the problem, is that politicians, many of them, want to get away with these soundbite solutions because the real solutions are difficult. Because you're right. You hit it earlier, Mike. How are you going to deal with these judges who take a look at a 17-year-old who's got 2 felony convictions on their name and still says, nah, they can go to high school? How do you deal with that? That's the bigger issue, and that's the bigger problem. But you can't articulate a solution in 10 seconds or less. I just happen to think that the answer is not buying into the soundbite solutions. I think the answer is really going out and trying to hold our legislators accountable for going after and tackling these tough issues. And I got to say, you know, I don't live in New York State. I don't have any relatives who live in New York State right now. But when your students go up to Albany this week, I'd love it if they would ask some really difficult and tough questions of these legislators rather than simply advocating for another soundbite solution.
Like what? Okay, you tell me one question they should ask, and I'll ask them too. Well, I want to ask them themselves. Go ahead.
All right. Here's a what can be done nationwide. 95% of criminal cases end in plea bargains. Is that too much? And what can be done to make sure that violent criminals get punished fairly? There's question number one.
Okay, they're going to say, "You build them, we'll fill them." That's what they're going to say.
Well, you know, you never know until you ask. Is there here? You know, we were talking about Curtis Byers from Buffalo. Ask him about that. What can be done to make sure that Curtis Byers and people like Mr. Byers aren't in our high schools after 2 violent felony convictions? And see what they say.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, I hope, Mike, and I really am glad that you came on the program. Do you feel like you were treated fairly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me take back the one comment. Maybe I phrased that wrong. Let's just say I might care more about these people than some NRA members. That's all. To be honest, I shouldn't say they don't care. I think most NRA members care about some of them about minorities. But they're your typical NRA member, say from some militia group in Idaho. You know as well as I do, they might not care too much about.
Mike, there are, and again, I'm just telling you, there are 4 million NRA members around this country, more now, and I've been to 5 NRA annual meetings. That means I've been around hundreds of thousands of these NRA members. I've hung out with NRA members from all across New York State and from Idaho, and I got to tell you, Mike, I've never met a racist NRA member in my life. I've never met a racist gun owner in my life, and I say that as the father of 2 biracial children. And I think, and I have to say, sir, that it bothers me to hear an educator, somebody who is teaching our kids, be so stereotypical, so judgmental, and so close-minded about people. Mike, I'm guessing you've never met too many NRA members. For you to make that statement.
Well,
I think you talk about needing understanding and greater appreciation. Well, it works both ways, Mike. And I just like we gave you the benefit of the doubt, and we wanted to hear your side of the story. I'd like to think that in the future, hopefully, you'll give gun owners and NRA members the benefit of the doubt and hear them out and hear why the Second Amendment is important to them. Ask them why they decided to become a gun owner. And I bet you'll get some amazing stories, Mike.
Here's what I want to do. You have Cameron email me. Next year, I'm going to have a debate. Every year I have a debate, Mike. I have 2 kids debate.
Yeah?
Okay? Anti-gun control, pro-gun control, whatever. NRA, gun control. And here's what I'll do. You send me someone, anyone, hopefully know someone in Western New York, and I'll have someone from a pro-gun control person. You send me someone, and we'll have a debate in my classroom.
I'll see what I can do to help you out, Mike. All
Fair
right?
enough.
All right. Hey, Mike, thanks again for coming on the program. It's good talking to you.
Take care.
Mike Esposito, a history teacher at Niagara Falls High School, joining us here on Cam & Company.